I want to talk about this work on drawing neural cellular automata, which is a neural network to learn the rules of a cellular automata. So first, I just want to remind briefly what is a cellular automaton. And so this one is the simplest one. This is the rule 30. So this is the rule for this cellular automaton model. So for instance, if we have a sequence of zeros and one, um, so we have, for instance, 1, 0, 0. This operation would be a 0. Then the 0 is different from the left. Then the next element would be a 1. So this is very simple to implement. I did it very quickly here. So you have a center or right, and then compared to the left. We can put this simple rule into a loop. I'm going to run. It takes a couple of seconds, and there it is. So this is the pattern coming out of this very simple model. So in this case, we have a fixed rule for this cellular automaton. We have this fixed rule. So the question in the word that I want to discuss is basically is the opposite thing. So you have the pattern, and then we want to discover what is the underlying rule. And to discover that rule, we are going to use a neural network. And what we are going to get is a numerical model of the pattern. So I'm going to explain what the author does. There is a very simple model. It's super simple. So basically, it has only two layers. So what it does is the following. You have here a grid on the image, and each cell on the image consists of 16 channels. The first of these 16 channels are the RGB colors, and the rest is just to store gradients or whatever is necessary for the network to work. Um, we are going to run a stencil 3 by 3. This is a convolutional uh, layer, and then we are going to store into a perception vector. The first three elements correspond to the R, G, and B colors. Then the result of this is going to go into a small network with a single layer, a convolutional layer, and then a nonlinear activation. The result of this simple network is going to be a correction to the current state of the system. This is delta S. And we are going to add this delta S to the current state of the system. And then we are going to put the entire process into a loop. And we are going to repeat many times this iteration. At each step of the process, we are going to compute the mean error between the target image and the prediction of the model. And ideally, what we want is to minimize that error. So basically, that's the process. Here is explained in a little bit more detail, but essentially it says the same. There is a function to do the perception. So interesting thing here is that the kernel of the convolutional process is fixed. It's a gradient. And then after this layer, there is another part, which is called the update rule. The update rule consists of two layers. One is this one here is a convolutional, another convolution layer, and then a nonlinear activation. Then we are going to construct our delta S, the update for the state of the system. And that's it. There are other parts of the code that I am not going to discuss, such as the stochastic cell update. This is, I believe, this is used for purpose of stabilizing the image at a later stage. So two things. I was unable to find the code for this. Um, so the code is supposed to be here, but there is nothing there. So I found another person who made a similar implementation of this of this process. He uses a different library of function. In this case, he uses uh, PyTorch. So I'm going to do something similar. Just want to mention what he's doing in this part. So this is the original image, the target image he wants to grow. Here we are preparing the seed. There's a single cell on the grid, which is going to, at the end, evolve into the lizard. What else? This is the model. Model has two parts, essentially. The first part is a convolutional uh, layer. So the interesting thing to look at here is that the kernel is 3 by 3. So this is going to look for gradients and other things. And then the other part of the network consists of a nonlinear activation and then another convolutional layer. But unlike the first one, the second one, it has a single cell. Uh, it takes information locally, unlike this part that includes information about the neighbors. The second layer takes or uses local information only. And there are other things that at the moment I am not going to use. Here it's going to initialize the weights with zeros. I am just let my weights all start from a random value. And in this part of the code, what it's doing is updating the state of the grid with a correction computed from the result of the neural network. Um, so this part of the code is going to be into a loop, and after each step of the loop we are going to compute the error and backpropagation to compute the optimized values of the weights, etc. So before showing what I'm going to do is first I'm going to show this diagram here to show the steps of the model. So this is just instead of a lizard, I'm just going to use a circle. Okay? A simple circle of fixed size. And second part, I'm going to use a single cell, just as in the original um, model. I'm going to use a single cell to start my neural network. And this is the model. It is exactly the same or almost the same, except for the size. I am using a much smaller size of the convolutional layer, and the reason is because I don't have enough memory. I don't have enough hardware to run a larger layer. So the first one, the perception layer, is a 3 by 3. And then the second part contains two layers. One is a nonlinear activation, and then a convolutional layer of size 1. Takes, again, this is very important. The first layer takes information about from the neighbors, includes uh, information from the neighbors, spatial information. But the second part, second layer, it includes only local information. And finally, I'm going to update the state with the correction that I obtained from the previous step. And then I'm going to put this model into a loop. It goes here. And at the end of each step, I'm going to compute 1,000 time steps. And then at the end of the loop, at the end of each step, I'm going to compute the mean square error between the target and the predicted image, only for the RGB channels. Then I'm going to do the backpropagation to compute the uh, uh, derivatives with respect to the weights of the model. And eventually, I'm going to obtain a model, and then I'm going to use this model to compare with the original image. So that's what I'm going to do. So this is a more pictorial diagram of the process. Let me see if I can center this a little bit more. Okay, so you start, generate the target image, initiate with a single cell on the grid. I define the model. There is a perception layer, there is an update layer, and then I apply the model to the current state. And I'm going to, this is something I forgot to mention. Each iteration of the model, each step of the model is going to run for a number of iterations. I choose a random number between 10 and 20 for doing the training. This is on each step of the process. And then at the end of each iteration, I'm going to compute the mean squared error to compare the target image with the prediction of the model. And then I'm going to update the weights. We use backpropagation to compute the optimized weights. And that's it. That's the work process. Let's see. Okay, so I'm just going to run this part. I'm going to make some comments on what I'm doing. Let's see. Okay, let's just load the necessary libraries. Okay, it takes a few seconds. All right, then the next one. This is just to fix the random seed. This is not really crucial for the model. These parameters of the model, I am using a very small version of the original thing. The original model it has about 20,000 weights. The one I am using now, I'm using about 5,000, much smaller than the original one. But this is just for try to understand the main process. Okay, size 32, channels 8. I am going to use only the first 3 channels to encode color. I run this part. This is the target. This is my image. It's a circle of size 1. It's a fixed size circle. And then I'm going to show the image. All right. What's this? This is the seed. This is just a single cell on the grid, and I'm going to paint it with a 1. This is a function to show the seed, and this is the model. So once again, the model has 2 parts. One is the perception. It's a convolutional layer with a um, kernel of size 3. This kernel is going to encode mostly grading, but it can also include other things. And then the second part of the neural network contains a nonlinear activation and another convolutional layer of size 1 that is going to encode only local information. And then I'm going to update the state of the system, the state of the grid, with the new state of the grid. And that's it. That's all I have. I'm going to run this part here. This is just to show the image. And this is the training loop. In the training loop, what I'm going to do is take the model that I construct before for a number of iterations. This number of iterations is typically between 10 and 20, but the total time step I am using is 1,000. And after it finished the whole set of iteration, every step of the simulation, I'm going to compute the error between the original image and my prediction. Then I'm going to do the backpropagation, and that's it. I'm going to show some um, preliminary results, and then I'm going to return the model. And eventually I'm going to use this model to construct a synthetic image of the original pattern of the original circle. So let me just run this part here, and let's do it. I'm just going to call the training loop here. So give me the original random seed, and then I have to wait a few seconds. So this is step 0, 200. So notice here that ideally the error is getting smaller and smaller. So it got a little bit smaller. This 0.5, 0.4. It should be a little bit smaller. It's not. So it changed a little bit sometimes. This is one of the reasons why it's necessary to use a stochastic stabilizer. But for a first approximation, it works fine. So 100, I think finish. So this is the result at the end of the 1,000 iterations. But then I need to show how how the final model works. So I take the model, training model here, and then I'm just going to advance for a number of iterations, let's say 25. And this will be my result. See? So this is the image that I get from my numerical model. It's not a perfect cycle, but it's pretty much uh, something that resembles a circle. So the purpose of this very little code is just to try to understand the basic steps of this model. And then this is the comparison with the original image, that circle. So that's it. That's all I wanted to show. This is the seed, original seed. Okay. So with this, I conclude this video to explain the basic principles of the growing neural cellular automaton.